Hé, 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 hé. Je rentre un peu fort dans la Scarlett. Hé, 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 hé. Si vous souhaitez, oui. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Donc là, je parle dans le micro qui va être dédié à la salle. Est-ce que vous m'entendez bien en distant? Hé, hé. Donc là, j'utilise le deuxième micro qui va être dédié à l'envoi. Est-ce que là, on vous entend bien? On peut se tester le Zoom ou pas? On peut tester le Zoom, voir si on reçoit bien le Zoom ou pas. Mais tu l'as là, normalement le lien de la réunion. Tu l'as le lien de la réunion. Ah ok.
Hello, hello, hello. No. Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Oh, oh.
So welcome everybody. I think we're gonna get starting now since the live streaming already start. I'm gonna let Antoine start the day to open the last day of the week of Circle U for the future of higher education and research. It started on Monday. I can see many faces that survived and started on Monday and are still present in the audience, which is great. And without further mention, Antoine, Vice President of Université Paris-Cité, will open the day.
Thank you, David. Good morning, everyone. It's actually a pleasure to see a full room on a Friday morning after this long week of national conference. So welcome again for those who have been here already. Welcome to the newcomers. I am Antoine Cazé, Vice-Président International Université Paris-Cité. As it already says here, you said it, so I said it. So the national conference, this is the fourth national conference of Circle U. We had 3 last year, one at King's College in London, one at Humboldt University, and one in Oslo in December. And there's more to come. There will be another national conference in Aarhus next month, on the 1st and the 2nd of March. And then a final one in Louvain, if I'm not mistaken, next fall. So these national conferences were part of our plan, initial plan for Circle U, to disseminate what we're doing and to reach out to other audiences than ourselves, because it takes, of course, a while to get to know each other. It's a large community, as you know, 9 universities, almost 500,000 students. The mind boggles. So it's also important to reach out to other audiences, and that's also why we're here at the Cité Internationale. I want to thank them again for welcoming us here. It's a vibrant hub of international life in Paris, and it's also a very nice setting. Please take a walk in the park if you have the occasion, even though it's cold. So it's important for us to be together, but also to reach out together. And that's the purpose of this national conference in Paris, focused on how internationalization transforms pedagogy and education in general. But today, we are gathered for an event which is, of course, related to the theme, but which is slightly different. It's to showcase the research part of Circle U, and I will let my excellent colleague and friend Elizabeth McIntyre to speak about it in a minute. Just to, no, come to the front, Elizabeth. Come with me. No, I just wanted to say, you all know that the European Commission decided initially to also fund some research activities in the European University Alliances, even though the funding does not allow us to actually do research in the scientific sense of the word, but it allows us to create an ecosystem that facilitates the possibilities for common research. And this is what we've been trying to do all along these 2 years, thanks to, of course, Elizabeth here in Paris, who has taken the lead, the academic lead on this branch of Circle U, but also thanks, and I want to really everyone to give a big hand to David, who has been our project manager for ERIA from the start. And behind this cool appearance and laid-back, manner of doing things, there's someone who is a very good organizer of things, a very good orchestrator of all the activities that we are doing together. So without further ado, I will leave the floor to Elizabeth to get into the more substantial meat of what we're going to do today. And thank you and welcome again.
Thank you very much, Antoine. My name is Elizabeth McIntyre, and you can tell from my name and my accent that I'm not French. Well, I am French, but I came here for a year 30 years ago and saw the light and met my husband, and that was the start of a new adventure. But throughout my 30-year career at Université Paris-Cité, where I'm a medical doctor, so I spend my life at the hospital, I've always worked at the European level, because as a French immigrant, because I am an immigrant, doses of Europe sometimes are helpful for people who move from one European country to another European country. And of course, European identity is evolving and has evolved over it evolves permanently. But I first got involved in Circle U when I applied to be Circle U Erasmus Plus lead for Work Package 4 on innovative teaching. And it quickly became apparent that there was somebody who was more competent to do that than I was, and that's Victoria Nagy, who's here with us today. So at that point, I'd moved to sort of do a sandwich act with Antoine as Vice President for International Affairs. He was my predecessor and my successor, because I then moved back into the health area where I'm probably better employed, but still on European dimensions. So that's why we decided that in Paris we would invent a role for me that actually didn't exist in the Circle U setup, because I don't think anybody else has an academic coordinator for a specific area. And so that's how I became academic coordinator for ERIA. And I don't think Paris Cité has regretted having the duo between the academic and the what we call administrative, but I think the term professional support is something I prefer, and frontier spanning university employees is maybe something that we will be discussing at some point, or you have been discussing earlier on. So I confirm that it's been a great pleasure to work with David, because he does all the work and I just get to just come up with ideas. And so we're a little bit the little sister program. The big brother program is Circle U Erasmus Plus, and we were added on because there was with separate Horizon 2020 funding, and I think we'll probably come back to that. But as a Scot, and any of you from any European country who has moved to another country will know what it means to be from a little sister country versus a big brother country, because every big brother country has its little sister countries next to it. And I think that applies to life in general, and I think it also applies to academic reactivity and positioning. So without further ado, I think we can, I'm already delighted that today has happened, because I've had coffee discussions with people I'm delighted to meet, and I'm very much looking forward to this morning's, the two panels and the discussions that go with it. And I'll hand over to David.
Thank you very much, Antoine and Elisabeth. And it's always complicated to organize such a meeting, and I'm not the only one on the boat. So we've seen Antoine, we've seen Elisabeth, and we also have Anna and Umi sitting in the front that spend a long week. And you can see, so we had a picture where you could see my tiredness, but we're still alive, we're still surviving. And we are not only Université Paris Cité organizing, but the whole Cycle U community. And I can see many faces that I remember. And it's not the best timing, because we're also uploading quite soon the next application next week. So we have a lot of things on our plate, but I'm really happy we succeeded to organize such a nice week. And I would like to thank all my colleagues, so they can also deserve some applause. And it's always good to start the morning with a round of applause. So it's perfect. Without wasting too much time, because the idea of the day today is to discuss a bit ERIA, but not only. It's more about discussing how we are doing research collaboration all together on the European research area. Some of you might not be super familiar with Cycle U. Some of you might not completely understand what Cycle U is, so I prepare like 3 short slides, and then we can discuss this through the morning, because we had a lot of time for discussion during the break, during the lunch. So this event is not only you listening or asking questions, but it's also you discussing with your peer. And this is, I think, quite important. So just in a nutshell, Cycle U is an alliance of university, equally committed university, 9, from Aarhus, Berlin, London, Paris, Belgrade, Louvain, Oslo, Pisa, and Vienna. And we are all working together in order to build an alliance of university to have a European campus where we train our students and we train our researchers to do collaborative research in the European research space. So 9 partner universities, almost 500,000 of students, and almost 65,000 academic and admin staff, and also the spanning one. So we had multiple projects, some are done already, some are ongoing. So as Elizabeth mentioned, we are here for the ERIA project, Empowering Research and Innovation Action. We like acronym short name, which is funded under the Horizon 2020 SWAFS program. And the idea is to strengthen the research and innovation dimension of the Circle U Alliance. The timing is a bit different from the brother project, which is the Erasmus Plus side for student and training and education. And so we started slightly more than 1 year ago. And the idea of today is to start discussing and reflect on what we've already done and where we are going forward. So the Circle U ERIA project, as I said, has a 2 million euro funding for 3 years. And the idea is to strengthen the research and innovation part of the Alliance. And we have 4 main objectives that we might discuss with Kevin Guillaume for the first panel and our panelists, and even in the second panel, which will be the continuation of the discussion. The 4 aims are to foster interdisciplinarity, to build on science and society, to also focus on early career researchers, which are key in our research community, and to also think about the structuration of our collaboration at the European level. And having said that, and it's a lot of ambition. Having said that, I'm super happy to welcome Kevin Guillaume, our Secretary General for the Alliance Circle U, that will moderate the first panel. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, David. Good morning, everybody. Very nice to see you all, to see people that were already there on Monday. As you know, I was there also on Monday, and I'm happy that you survived the full week. As David explained, we are here today to reflect together and to discuss about research and innovation collaboration in the framework of the Alliance and more than that, beyond the Alliance, also in Europe and beyond Europe. We will organize, in fact, the morning in 2 panel sessions. The first one that I will moderate, we will concentrate and go more in depth about what is ERIA and what we have done so far in Circle U, with some key actors that have been participating in the ERIA project right now. And in the second panel that Elizabeth will moderate, we will discuss with, I would say, some partner, external partner to the Alliance, and reflect all together about what have been maybe the achievement in other alliances, what have been also maybe, or what are the expectations of some partners, etc. So it's really to reflect all together on that. I'm not checking my mail, it's just that I forget to print my notes, so it's just to make sure that I'm not forgetting something. As David said, it's quite an important moment right now because, in fact, we have to submit the new application by Tuesday, 5 p.m. So it's quite hectic at the moment. And in fact, I'm really sorry to say that I will have to leave already at 11:30 to come back to Brussels and continue the writing of the application. But anyway, I will directly invite the panelists of the first panel to join me. So Jonathan Waithman, professor at Université Paris-Cité. If you are here, you can join directly. I will present you afterwards. Alexandra Boua from the University of Belgrade. Hi, Alexandra. Ludivine Breget from Paris-Cité also. And I think that we have online, I don't know if it's already connected, Nigel Eady from King's College London that will also share. Hi, Nigel. So as I said very quickly, the objective of this panel, we have 45 minutes, is really to take stock with you about what we have achieved so far in Circle U about research and innovation, knowing, and I think it's important for the audience also to underline that in fact the ERIA project is quite new. We have been working all together for 14 months or 16 months, something like this, I think. And of course, we have still a lot of ongoing activities, and I'm thinking, for example, about the activity that Alexandra is preparing about the series of practical lecture on global health. So I think that here it's really to take stock about what we have done, and also maybe to discuss with you, and maybe that you could share also your experience about what have been working so far in this collaboration, what have been maybe challenging, and also how you would see the follow-up in the future for ERIA. So what I propose to do, and we already discussed that, we have only 45 minutes, so we will start and I will ask each of the panelists to present very shortly. It's a bit like the model of ma thèse en 180 seconds, so my thesis in 180 seconds, to pitch a bit what have been the main activity that I've been working on in ERIA, to really give you a flavor about what we have done so far. And after that, we will discuss a bit with you what have been maybe the challenges that you have encountered, what have been also maybe the main achievements, and ultimately discuss maybe the next step that you imagine for Circle in terms of research and innovation. So I will start maybe with, I see in the order here, with Jonathan. So Jonathan is a professor here at Université Paris-Cité, specialized in genetics, if I'm not wrong. In fact, you are in a way an old member of Circle because you're also involved in you have been involved in the strategic partnership Innovate 40S. That was a former project, a predecessor of Circle, and you have been involved there in a really interesting area, which is also how to collaborate with artists in the university, in the academia. But here, for the case of ERIA, you have not been working with artists, but you have been involved mainly in the work package 2 on trends and interdisciplinarity, where we had, for example, the Intercircular Prize. We had also the sandpits, the different interdisciplinary thematic networks that we have put on. So maybe I can leave you the floor, Jonathan, directly, and if you could maybe present shortly what have been for you the activities that you have been working on and what you take from that. Thank you.
So, thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you, David. So I'm a little bit like Elizabeth. You can hear I'm not French either, and there may be something about being post-Brexit abandoned in in Europe, which is sort of a conviction that because we live in a different country than where we grew up in a different language, we feel sort of a commitment to European identity, and that's why I guess we couldn't say no to being involved in Circle U. So I must admit that even though you call me an old man of Circle U, every time it took me a long time to work out how it's structured and what I am. So David told me I'm a work package 2 lead. Okay. So I was also, it took me a long time to work out what that means. And I was also involved in this innovative education. So it is hard to navigate even for the people who are inside. And often I say to David or Elizabeth, which meeting are we in? So just a few words about work package 2. So work package 2 is a work package that is called Fostering Interdisciplinarity to Co-construct Solutions with Other Sectors, whatever that means. And one of the reasons I think that I'm involved is that I was, so I'm a work package lead, which means there's someone, this work package is being run, coordinated by UC Louvain. And we are, and each university has a representative. And I was very involved in creating interdisciplinary projects here, including LabX and teaching art science teaching projects. And I was keen to be involved in this Circle U-wide discussion about interdisciplinarity. So you asked us to just summarize what the events. So I imagine we'll come back to it, but one of the complexities of Circle U is that we have a document that was written by, I'm not sure who, I'm not sure when, and we are sort of executors. We're supposed to bring it to life. And I was just looking back at the original document actually last night, and we have actually amazingly done all the things that we were supposed to do. Not always understanding why and how, but we have done them. So the 4 activities that were put in work package 2 were the Circle U Prize, and I'll come back to them, the sandpits, the interdisciplinary training research networks, and the last one, which is not actually really managed to do, was a research on research project. So we meet very regularly by teams, and it took, I think, took a long time to get to know each other and to understand how to work together and understand what it was that we were supposed to do. And we managed to avoid having endless discussions defining what is interdisciplinary research. So the first couple of times and then we just stopped doing it because we could have done that every time we met. And it's been a lot of getting to know each other and getting to know how to work together. So the Intercircle U Prize is a prize for interdisciplinary research, but we realized very quickly that, so it's supposed to be like a vitrine, a showcase for interdisciplinary research. But to be honest, it's hard to give a prize at the beginning of a project. So we couldn't give a prize for inter-circle use. So it's really an opportunity to showcase existing interdisciplinary projects. And so we were part of a panel that selected the prize winners. If I can, tell me if I'm being too long. If I can highlight one of the problems is that the prize sounds like there's something that you get something, and actually the Circle U prize doesn't have any prize money, and we were not allowed to give any prize money. So the Circle U prize is an event, in fact, we selected a project to showcase, and then there was a video made about this, and their prizes were awarded at the UC Louvain conference on interdisciplinary research. Okay, the next prize is now open. So if you have existing projects in your universities that you would like to showcase, and bearing in mind that there is no prize for the prize winners. But that's part of the, yeah. So I'm gonna just to say what the sandpits are. So the sandpits is more obscure. So the sandpits is, in French, I think we say a bac à sable. So the idea that you put children in a bac à sable and they become creative. So the idea is to, it's a UK originated tradition of bringing, it's a type of brainstorming methodology where you bring people together from different disciplines, and they had two-day residencies, and they work together to come up with something, and there is a facilitator. So there's a real methodology to this. So the first sandpit, so unfortunately I couldn't attend, but the first sandpit event was held again in Louvain. The participants were were very brave to be involved, and have been very happy about the event and the methodology. We can talk more about it if you want. The second sandpit applications are open to everybody. So we only had one participant from University Paris Cité, and she was a PhD student, and originally the facilitator felt that she was too early career, but I really pushed that she was involved, and so she's a very interesting, a social psychologist from Indonesia who was really, really interested in European culture and felt that this was an opportunity to really understand more about European culture. And she found the event extremely enriching. Again, there was no money involved, and so the idea was that they come up with projects, but there was no money to actually support those projects. So actually, UC Louvain put 30,000 euros on the table to support 3 projects that will come out of the sandpit. I think this was really a very good initiative of their part. So there is a call open specifically for sandpit participants to apply for seed funding to build on what they did over those 4 days. And UC Louvain is hoping that another partner will take up next year for encouraging projects that come out of the sandpits. The other things we've done is this ITRN, so the Interdisciplinary Training Research Collaborative Project or Network. These are very, very small amounts of money. It's 5,000 euros. So again, this is the successful candidates are people who already have the networks in place and the ideas in place. There are four projects that were supported. And then the last action was the idea of recruiting a postdoc who would really look at interdisciplinary research as a research object. And this has been very hard to recruit, and this is at King's, and it's ongoing. So that's a summary of the activities. Is that what you wanted? Okay, and we can highlight more the complexity of putting those in place.
So I will maybe just quickly introduce Alexander. So thanks a lot, Janet, and maybe we can afterwards take some question about that. Just to underline that, of course, I hope that not everything is about money in research. So of course we need money, but it's not just about that. But anyway, we can discuss that afterwards, of course. So now I will give the floor to Alexandra Bua from the University of Belgrade. So you are a pharmacist, professor at the University of Belgrade, and I think that your field of specialization is really the environmental impact of contaminant on human health. And for CQU, you are what we call an academic chair, so working really 20% normally of your time for the Global Health Knowledge Hub. And I think that you have been quite involved in ERIA in the preparation right now that will happen about this public lecture series on global health that will be launched, I think, around April or May, but you will take. So please, and this, as you will explain, is really about how we can engage, in fact, more with the society and also the students about research, etc. But I will leave you the floor.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you, David, for the invitation. As you have said, we are organizing a series of public lectures. The first one is going to be in April, and then in May we're going to have the one about the concept of One Health, which is promoting like the interconnection between the health of the planet, of the animals, of the environment, of the people. And we are going to have lots of interesting lecturers from the universities inside the Circle U, but also from USA, for example, who are going to talk about the role of World Health Organization in this concept. So I will use this opportunity to invite you all there. And also we are going to have a live broadcasting, so you will be able to watch it even if you're not in Belgrade. I would also like to talk about the possibilities which were given in ERIA regarding the empowering of the mobility of early career researchers. Because next month I am welcoming a PhD student from the King's College London, and he's going to stay in Belgrade for 4 months at my faculty, at my department. And he's going to work a lot together with my research group. As you have mentioned, I'm working in the field of environmental health. So we are going to investigate the role of endocrine disrupting chemicals on health. I'm sure you are already aware of this concept. These are the chemicals that are like bisphenol A and phthalates plasticizers, which are impacting our health on many ways. And to put them in more global health concept, they have been evaluated to have pretty much economic impact in European Union. So research in this field is very important. So we have already prepared questionnaires about the attitudes and knowledge of students about this subject. And we are going to do these questionnaires together at King's College London and at the University of Belgrade. At the end, we are going to compare the results, and we are going to try to find some ways to come up with educational intervention for our students, because this is the way that we can impact their attitudes toward these chemicals, because we can reduce the exposure to them. We are also going to do a bunch of interesting laboratory work together with the Clinical Center of Serbia, which is associating partner of Circle U. So we are going to enroll them in this research as well. And we are going to investigate the levels of these chemicals in blood samples. So it's going to be like a true research, which is going to be done in a laboratory. And I think it is very good initiative, because this PhD student from King's College, he's gonna, add the new value to his PhD work. And also my research group will grow, because we are planning to translate some of the concept and techniques that he's doing at the King's College to our faculty. So we are hoping that this is going to be a really good research ecosystem that we are going to develop. And maybe I should talk now about challenges, because I was talking about nice things, but there were some challenges as well. Yeah. So
you can mention one, and after
can I mention two?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I have to mention also funding as a problem, because we are heavily relying on our national projects, both of us. They have Cancer Research UK funding. I have Scientific Fund of Serbia. So we are going to use this funding for the research. And the other problem that I was facing, I really wanted to expand this research into other universities inside Circle U, so that we can do this questionnaire with the students from all faculties. But the problem was that, as far as I can see, not everybody is, aware of the Circle U Alliance. So I couldn't find the partners. And I think that one of the things that we should do in the future is to make Circle U more visible to our partners for the start. So when I, for example, write a letter to a person that I know that is doing something similar, and put Circle U inside the topic, that I'm sure that he will know or she will know what I'm talking about.
Thank you, Alexandra. If I may, I will not give the floor to Ludivine, but to Nigel. Why? Because Alexandra mentioned the scheme that we have put in place in ERIA about mobility for early career researcher. And so, Nigel Eddy from King's, you are the Director of Research Talent at King's, I think since 2017. But in fact, you have been involved for a long time, in fact, about supporting researchers in their career development, etc. And if I can mention, you have been really active in what we call the work package 4 about strengthening the human capital, and especially on the two schemes, the mobility schemes that we are been establishing in ERIA, which is one that Alexandra mentioned already, which is those postdoc or doc PhD mobility to support academic chairs, and the other one that is also very interesting, which is mobility outside the academia. But maybe, Nigel, you can mention a bit more about those two important initiatives. The floor is yours. Thank you. We cannot hear you yet. I don't know if it's a problem here. Wait, huh? No. We cannot hear you yet. I don't know if it's a problem. Not yet. Sorry, Nigel. Wait, huh? I think it's on our side, the problem. It's not you. We cannot hear you yet. No, not yet. Sorry, Nigel. I think it's on our side, the problem. It's not you. No. Sorry, Nigel. Should we? Wait, huh? I think it's on our side, the problem. Can you try again, Nigel?
Yep, sure.
Yeah, that's it. We're just trying to increase the volume.
Working now?
Yeah, that's good. We can hear you. Thank you, Nigel.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate your nice introduction, although maybe you've said most things for me already.
Yeah,
hello, everyone. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person. I would have liked to have been in Paris, but it just wasn't possible. As Kevin said, I'm Director of Research Talent at King's, and my role particularly focuses on PhD students and postdoctoral researchers and research staff. Hello, everyone. My involvement in ERIA has particularly been in Work Package 4, which is about strengthening human capital. So it's really about our developing research community, early career researchers, as many people would refer to them, and
Yeah. Nigel, just a second, because there is an echo here. They are trying to fix that again. Can you speak again? Just sorry, yeah. Yeah, I think it's good now. Sorry.
moment. I think we've got about 12 placements currently at different organisations across the EU where we will be placing researchers over the coming months. I think I'd say the major achievement is even just coordinating that scheme. I think we're 7 universities of the 9 involved in those 2 schemes. And as you can imagine, linking together young researchers from across our many institutions, facilitating connections with the academics, and enabling that mobility is not a straightforward thing. So I think it's been an achievement that we've got those 2 schemes off the ground. I'm particularly interested to see how the intersectoral mobility works, but that will have to be a future discussion to tell you how that goes. I think some of the challenges have already been alluded to. Clearly, funding is part of that. I suppose the ongoing challenges for me relate to the scale. I think if we want to do these things to have really significant impact, we need to grow them. And maybe we will have 10, 15, possibly 20 mobilities in each of those 2 schemes, but that's relatively small. And I think if we want to have real impact, we need to be bigger. And I think alongside that, there's a sort of administrative challenge. I think, our individual researchers at their different levels, if they're working across different countries, there's quite a lot of sort of administrative complexity to making those things work, especially making them work smoothly. But I think we have to start somewhere. And I think the scheme has made a good start, and we will see over the next year or 2 where it gets to. I think that's everything I wanted to say, but happy to answer questions and to comment on other initiatives. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks a lot, Nigel. Very clear. And sorry for the technical problem there.
No problem.
But it was crystal clear. But we will come back afterwards anyway about the challenges that you mentioned, and also maybe the achievement, because we don't have just to speak about challenges, but also about achievement. So last but not least, I will pass the floor to Ludivine Breger, that you are a project manager in that Paris Cité, but you are also a researcher, and you have been working a lot previously on different international European projects, and with a special interest, I think, about integrity, scientific integrity, and ethics also. Most precisely, in Circle U, you are involved in the VP4, the Work Package 4, again on human capital, and especially you have been playing a key role in setting up the Early Career Researcher Forum, which is really a place, as you will explain, to try to create a kind of community of practice between our university. But please, I will leave you the floor, and maybe you can explain a bit more about that.
Thank you, Kevin. So I know you've asked us to focus on one activity, but what kind of French would I be if I were to follow rules? So I'm actually going to talk about 2. The first one is, as you mentioned, the Early Career Researcher Forum, and the second one is the online training that we're trying to develop for the students. And I want to talk about both of them because they're really linked. So as Kevin mentioned, I'm working on the Work Package 4, which is strengthening the human capital. And it's actually nice to follow Nigel because the activities are in the same work package, so it makes sense. And we were supposed to set up what's called the Early Career Researcher Forum, and I think the name is a bit misleading, and that was part of the challenge we had. When you hear that, you think it's targeted towards PhD students and early career postdocs, but actually the idea of that activity was to have to create a shared space where common issues related to PhD trainings and postdoc training could be discussed. And it was quite interesting. We had 2 online meetings already. One face-to-face meeting that happened, workshop that happened in Paris with about 20 participants. And now as part of this online community, we have about 60 people that have registered. And we're gonna have the next online meeting on the 1st of February. So if you're not yet part of this community and you feel you would like to join us, feel free to catch me during the coffee break and I'll add you to the list. And the idea is that we can meet regularly and try to work together on how we make training for early career researcher better. And the other aspect was to define what kind of online training we were supposed to design. So part of the ERIA project aimed at developing 3 online trainings that would be shared within the Alliance for PhD students and postdocs. And thanks to the work of David, we're now very close to having 4 of them, because we thought 4 would be even better. And part of the community from the ECR forum has helped to actually define the topics that we should target for these online trainings. I should mention it's also very nice to see Alexander Hasgold today, who kindly participated in the ECR workshop in Paris. We didn't have a chance to meet you face to face, but it's very nice to actually see you today. So as part of the challenges, I would say setting up an online community with people that have never met was particularly challenging, and starting with the online part before we had the first face-to-face meeting was probably not the easiest way to do it. And mostly I think I relate to what has been said before, what Jonathan said about working out the different activities happening in Circle U, see how we can do things together, and how can we become how can Circle U become more than the sum of its parts? I think that's for me the main challenge.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your contribution. Maybe now we can start with a first round of questions that I have from you. And maybe the first question that I have would be that all our university have a lot of different funding and opportunity to collaborate together. But we decided 3 or 4 years ago, the president and rectors decided to work together and create this alliance. We are now 2 years after that, 2 or 3 years after that. From your perspective, and especially in research and innovation, what have been the added value of working through the alliance, if any? So what is really the achievement that we can see, and what is ERIA has brought as a plus in the collaboration that we could have between the 9 universities and across the alliance? So I don't know who wants to start, maybe to share some opinion or view there. Jonathan?
I can try. Well, in terms of, so I'll answer, I wrote down sort of 5 things that I think are challenges, but sort of address this. The first is, as Ludwig said, so particularly in interdisciplinary research, it's based on trust, and it's very hard to build these networks when you don't know each other. So there's an inevitable, a long lag phase of getting to know each other, and doing that through remote, and I think it needs to be in presence. So that's been hard. Another thing just to underline is that this is a really another layer on top of all the other things we do. So I'm part of a department, which is part of a UFR, which is part of a faculty, which is part of a university, and then somewhere there's a new layer, and the same and the same for all our students and postdocs. So understanding where this new layer, and that's why. So it wasn't to say we want money. It's just there have to be some incentives to get involved in yet another layer on top of everything. And it's been very hard, I think, for all of us to give real visibility to that layer when we're trying to convince our students and faculty that they're also part of a new university that keeps changing its name here locally. And so this has been, it's really, really hard. So it's been very hard to give visibility for an interdisciplinary, intercultural, site, geographical project, to give that visibility locally. And that has made it hard to get people, to give people incentives. And that's why the fact that there isn't any money just makes it even harder to do that. And that's part of the top down. The other thing I'd just like to say to answer your question is a point that I brought up Monday, which is the question of how researchers and professors choose partners for any project. And this raises a really big question for all the universities individually, and then for Circle U, is what does it mean to have an international strategy when locally people are choosing partners research partners because of expertise, and those are not always easy to find, so they're normally found through the literature, and teaching partners because of often historical links. So we saw Monday, we have these very impressive Erasmus Mundus projects, but that are outside of any logic of Circle U. So how do we encourage people to choose partners within Circle U? And I feel that, and maybe the rewriting is going to address this, is that actually having a research wing and a teaching wing of this project makes it even harder. So I'm an enseignant-chercheur, which means I have one salary but two jobs, and those jobs, but they both require a lot of. So I run a master's program and a graduate school and a doctoral program, and these are very, very international. But the partners are not necessarily the partners of Circle U. And I think if we're going to spend a lot of time getting to know each other, so I'm also involved in the ECR as well, if we're going to spend a lot of time getting to know each other, it would be nice if there are benefits to both our research and teaching activities related to all the time we've invested in building these. And that's why there have to be some financial incentives to do that. So I've loved the visits. So I've been to Louvain for remotely for this art science. I went to Oslo also for the innovative. And these meetings, these meetings were great. They were very, very stimulating, and we saw, and the exchange of good practices has been really, really important. But the question is how to benefit how to integrate these into the rest of my life, which is the other 95% of my life. Yeah.
Somebody else want to react on that? Alexandra, Ludivino, or Nigel?
Yeah, well, I think that collaboration between the research groups is essential for the science because it's helped us, to develop even new research ideas, to expand our own research. And so far, I think that the only thing that is keeping us from collaborating more is the sense of belonging to the Circle U. That is something that I think that is missing, and that's the experience that I had when I sent those emails to the people who are from this university and haven't gotten an answer regarding for example, some collaboration. And I think if we manage to change this in future, then this is going to be an excellent thing, because having 9 universities working together on something and creating new research groups, having new research ideas. And as for funding, then it's going to be easier to find funding as well, because we can, apply for other European programs and get funding from other sources. So this can be used as a base for us to find partners and then find other, come up with new research ideas and collaborate more, create networks, especially for the young researchers. I think, for example, in Serbia, I think that for my PhD student, this is going to be an excellent experience because they're going to work in international environment, which is not something that is very frequent and usual. So it's going to, be very good for their research and their experience. So I think that the biggest problem is the visibility and making it function as a one.
Thank you. I think that Nigel, you raised your hand. I see from the screen now, isn't it?
Thanks, Kevin. I would certainly agree with what Alexandra just said about, the networks for the early career researchers. I think this is what's crucial to them, and I don't know what it's like in the other institutions, but certainly at King's, I think for some students particularly, maybe less so for the postdocs, but certainly for the students, encouraging them to look up from their research, not be so focused on I've just got to get my research done, but actually look more broadly and think what comes next, where am I heading, what are my opportunities. I think that's the big advantage to them of these sorts of schemes. Almost to some extent, from my perspective, I don't mind what they do, where they go, what they engage with, because the reality is they will do a placement or attend a workshop, and who knows whom, they don't know, they can't predict who they're going to have a conversation with, who's going to come up to them and say, did you know about this funding opportunity? Did you know about this job? So I think that's one of the real strengths of these sorts of networks, as more and more going from 7 to 9 universities is a real strength. I think the other benefit for the institutions, which is, I suppose, a bit variable, is it just gives you access to a wider set of resources. Ludwin talked about the workshops that are going to be coming up now. We're fortunate at King's, we do have a lot of this sort of resource and workshops. I think in some of the other universities there's much less, and therefore we democratize, we open up that training to a much wider community, and I think that can only be good for the research that we do. We're better connected and we're more skillful at doing it. So I think for me those are two of the strengths of these sorts of opportunities.
Thank you, Nigel. Do you want to add something, Ludivine, maybe on that? And after we'll maybe open to the audience.
So I just wanted to maybe give you a little more details about these online courses. And as Nigel said, King's has been very proactive and they're going to participate in at least 2 of them. So just to give you the topics, we have one planned on career mobility, one on open science, that will be organized by Université Paris-Cité, one on public engagements, and that's 100% King's, and another one on well-being that comes from Vienna. And we're trying to see how we can build around that. But I think I want to be positive about, because I mean, we've been talking about challenges and I think it's important, but I think also we have to accept that building a network takes time. We had COVID, meaning that we couldn't travel that much, so that also, I think, play a part in that. And I think for me, the easiest way to build out a network is to rely on people. So for the ERC forum, we started very simply asking the leads within the work package and say, okay, we need to build that community. Do you know people in your university, within your institution, that would be interested or could benefit from it? Can you talk to them, explain to them what it is, and put us in touch? And it worked slowly doing that. And I think it's the same when you're looking for collaborators. I think maybe an easier way to get in, instead of sending an email with circle you in the title, is to talk to people, the administrative staff in the support, on the support side, to say, okay, hey, do you know a researcher working on this? Can you help me get in touch? And I think having a repository or a list of the different research topics in the different universities will help, but I think you need that personal connection to get in sometime. And we just need to work on that. And the staff weeks are a great tool, I think. I was fortunate enough to participate in the one that was in Louvain before the winter break, and I've met a lot of very interesting people. We made connection, just saying, oh, we've been struggling to find partners working on this. Do you know people? And, going back home and being, yes, I'll find you the contact. So I think we'll just have to be a little patient and keep on building that network slowly.
Thanks a lot, Ludivine. So normally we should end in 2 minutes already, but I'm turning to David if we can maybe take a bit more time, maybe 5 to 10 minutes max. So thank you. Because I would like maybe to open the discussion to the audience here. And before I see already hands, just I would like maybe to react, or maybe react to 3 elements. We were talking a lot about trust. And I think that it's true that I've been starting in Circle U a bit more than a year. And I think that what we are doing here, it's really to build a circle of trust, in fact. And of course, it's taking time. Of course, we have to make sure that the circle is visible to everybody, etc. But I think it's really one of the key elements. And I would like to see also from you if it's something that you keep you have also in mind. Second element is about the funding. I was talking before the panel with the VP, the Vice President for Aix-Marseille that is here, and we are talking about the fact that in fact the SWOT action that we have in all the alliance are not to fund research. In fact, it's about funding support to research, which is maybe different. And I think that maybe here we have to be clear also to our communities that in fact it's not through the alliance that we will fund your research project, and that's maybe something that we have to reflect on. And last but not least, because it was also a comment made on the first day, on Monday, I remember, it's about, okay, we have Circle U now, does that mean that we just have to work with those partners? And in my perspective, of course not, and especially not in research where academic and scientific freedom is just the basis about what we are doing. But as Ludivine just said, in a way, it's a kind of easy access that we could have through other 8 partners. So I think that that's something also important. But so I saw some hands, our colleague from Anne there, and then the colleagues here. Thank you. If you can just shortly present yourself for those that haven't
Yes, I will. I'm not hiding behind the
yet.
pillar. So thanks a lot for this panel. My name is Anne Enderwitz, Professor of English Literature at Humboldt University Berlin. And I just want to share one positive example, because I think it's really true that we need to grow together as an organization, and we need time to embed Circle U at our respective universities. Now, with Work Package 6 and Think and Do Tank, we had 3 meetings this week. And I have to say that for a few months, I was really wondering about whether we would all come together and find a way of sort of culturally and disciplinary being able to translate to each other what we're doing. And after this week, it feels a bit like a miracle has happened. We have really come together, and we've done a lot of the things that in the beginning we thought we wouldn't be able to do. And I'm really blown away by this. And I think the next step, as some of you highlighted, is to really tackle the challenge of embedding Circle U at our universities, making it known, giving it a voice, and finding ways to manage the onboarding process of getting more researchers on board and also more students. And I think that's the next step. But after this week, I'm very optimistic that we will actually manage to achieve this. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Hannah, for your optimism. That's really good. I'm also super optimistic, you know, even if I'm tired, but it's okay. There was a colleague here, I think. And then Anna.
Hi, I'm Andrea, a student from Aarhus University, and what I wanted to do was make a comment, which is very much in line with what Anne was saying, and it's to include the students as well. I agree a lot with what both Alexandra and Ludivine were saying about making Circle U more visible, and I think that by looking in the room, there is a bit of an overweight towards professors and teachers being here. And there could be more students involved in hearing your messages because they're very relevant to everyone. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Maybe Ludivine and Jonathan wanted to react on that directly.
Wait. And we have a student also that wants to react. So both of you can react.
My name is Zahara. I'm from University di Paris Cité. But I come from Sri Lanka, just moved to Paris, so immigrant. I've been participated in the summer school at Oslo last August, and I would like to say some positive notes on that because it was an excellent way to network with students from across all the universities, 9 universities, and also from different nationalities. It was not only European students, but also from other parts of the countries. However, when I talk to my friends at University Paris Cité or LPI, I find it a little bit difficult to accept that many students are not aware about Circle U. So this is something that the Circle U could work to improve on the visibility. And also I would like to agree with the point of the other student because I think I see only a very few students here. And it would be nice to have a balance of students, researchers, professors, and others. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. I'm very pleased to see students here today, and thank you for coming. I have to say that for the Early Career Researcher Forum, the plan was to have students and young postdocs involved. We had a bit of, it was a little difficult to have them on board and then taking part, but we had some students from PISA who joined the second online meeting, so I was very pleased to see them. And if you are interested in joining, please do. But it'd be nice to hear also from you how you heard about Circle U and those initiatives and you know why you decide to come today, because I think we definitely need to increase the engagement from the PhD students and postdocs.
I just wanted to rebound so just to give you an example, I am very positive. I know we highlighted the challenges, but it's important to discuss the challenges. But just to give you an example, in the Innov 40DS, we just had there was the end of the project roundtable where they had created 12 transferable skills that we should highlight in teaching. And they had developed a very complicated grid with beginner, intermediate, and advanced layers to assess teaching. And I was struck by the fact that this was all being done by teachers. And so actually, I'm now using that grid in a class that I'm running with students, with master's students. I'm asking them to assess the master's program using these transferable skills grid. And I'm going to then use that to convince my colleagues that we need to improve elements of the program by listening to students. So I really, there's just an example of something that I would not have thought of if we hadn't done this project. And I did a whole class, actually 2 classes. And next Friday, if anyone's interested, next Friday the students are going to present using different skills from scientific visualization to show how they assessed our program using these Circle U interdisciplinary or transferable skills. So there are many. I think we can continue to do better.
I think Alexandra wanted to.
Thank you. Just because the colleague mentioned the summer school, I just remember the summer school we had in Paris on global health, and it was so motivating for us as well because we had such an amazing feedback from our students. Such a positive energy, and they have started some new actions. We have managed to have a initiative on some new research papers that we are going to write together and created alumni. And I think this collaboration with students is also of utmost importance for the Circle U, just to highlight that one more time, yeah. Thank you.
Still there, and then take Anna, and after we can maybe go. Thank you. Yeah, can you all hear me? Yeah, I'm also a student from Aarhus, and I just have like a comment about this thing about involving the students, because I think it must be like a active choice from you, because right now, right, we're just here kind of, what can you say, we got involved in different ways, and I think you have to formalize it in some way, so you have a continuity, because you know, like the organization is so complex, so to be able to attend more often, you would be able to have students who actually understood what is happening, and I think we would be able to contribute more. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe before giving the floor to Anna, just to respond to that, because I think it's a really important point, and to be honest with you, I think that it has been really a priority of all the 9 universities. Maybe you are not aware about that, but from the beginning, in fact, the 9 student organizations of the 9 universities decided to establish the Circle U Student Union. So from the beginning, KUSU is there in all the governance framework of Circle U, contributing to all the strategic development. They are meeting with directors through the General Assembly. They are discussing with the management board about the execution of the project in the islands, etc. So it's there. But it's true that we realize that maybe it's not enough, because there are student organizations that are there to defend interest of the student, which is important. But what we have to make sure is that the student community also is aware about that. And that's why in the future, and that's in the application that we will submit on Tuesday, we want to create a network of Circle U alumni. And I'm very happy that we have already 1 alumni from one summer school. And if you want, there will be a call to become a Circle U ambassador, where there will be some money there, so that you can organize some event, cultural event, sport event, any scientific event, etc., to also push that. And I think that in this way, we would like to, in a way, disseminate also Circle. But again, we should remind ourselves that Circle is 500,000 students, that maybe some students are not willing to know about Circle and are really, we should respect that also. So I think that we should be aware about the scale and that it's taking time, but we go step by step, and I'm sure that we will reach out more and more students. And last but not least, in all the activity that we are developing right now and developing in the future, being summer school, being joint programs, joint courses, etc., we know that we have to reach out more students. That still now, it's really few students that we are touching here, and that we have to continue that. And to do that, we have also to embed all what we are doing inside our university, so that professors like Jonathan can also use Circle U as a leverage for his own teaching mission, etc. But yeah, but we can discuss further that afterwards if you want. But Anna, maybe you wanted to add something, and Jonathan, you want to react on that?
No, I just wanted to add one other point, which is so when Elizabeth and I grew up in the United Kingdom, we wouldn't have thought that we'd be sitting on a stage here in France, and something that I wanted to bring up an issue that we discussed briefly in Oslo, but where I think what we see amongst our students is extremely positive and really inspiring for the future, which is the question of language. So when we grew up, we would not have thought we would be in France because of the language barrier. And I see amongst my students, all the students in my program speak 3 languages, English, French, and often another language. And the language is no longer a barrier that my generation would have thought it would be. And we thought the solution was just imposing English, which is just natural to us. But actually, in some of these meetings, we've seen that that's not necessarily the solution, and that students are perfectly capable of switching from English to French or another language and spending some time when they don't master because it's not completely in their language, but it's not a barrier to interaction. And I think that's something where Circle U can really explore, is the future of Europe, which is really multilingual rather than just imposed English. So.
Thanks a lot, Jonathan.
I have a micro. Thank you for bringing multilingualism in the discussion. My question was in another direction. I'm really interested about how you work in ERIA, but I couldn't have the time to really ask David how is it working. Have you already started kind of a mapping of what are the research areas that you cover in each university? Because I think that for me the first step is to see what are the strengths in each university to find complementarities. Because, for example, let's imagine that in Belgrade you are very well trained in artificial intelligence, and in Paris we have nanomedicine. So maybe you can work together towards, I don't know, Alzheimer, and if in Louvain they have neurolinguistics, aphasia. Because for me, and it is related with interdisciplinarity, disciplines can work together if there is a common goal. And I imagine that in the sandpits, the facilitator was bringing somehow a common goal. It's not just putting different researchers together and let's see what's happened, what kind of game can do together. It's like, what is the common goal that we have? So I'm interested in to know if you consider this, or you plan to do that, because for me it's essential. And a very last comment, have you considered as well participatory action research, bringing the community in the very first phase of designing the research, not only as a source of collecting data and non-academic actors? I mean, the communities can be a social civic society or maybe the students or whatever. Thank you.
That's important and big question that we have to answer in 2 minutes. No, I'm joking. So, but we can further discuss that afterwards, if you like. The organizer, I know that you know the organizer because they will be angry against me afterwards. But
I will a very quick answer to your question, Anna. The first one, back in 2020, we did a mapping of all the research done in the Circle U ecosystem. So this has been done and it's available, and it was disseminated in the 7 universities at the time, 7. So we can reactivate that.
And it's based on that we decided to focus on 3 themes, which are climate, democracy, and global health.
And also we are also, and it has not been launched yet. No, I'm concluding. So to answer so first of all, thank you for all your question. Soon will be the break. I'm glad that you have a lot of challenge that we have addressed in the new application about the funding, about the scale, about the implication of students. So it's good that we are kind of matching our expectation. And to answer quickly Anna's comments, one other tool that we are building right now is an academic directory where all researchers can register, and then you can know who is part of CycleU and what they're doing as research with a certain amount of keyword. And so this would be really helpful for us and for all the academic community to create and build on the collaborative project. So as an academic, you can look at the directory in a few months, hopefully, and you will be able to find your colleagues that are working in specific thematics. And this will be really helpful also for you to start, for everyone. In theory, yes, yeah. So then most of the research area will be, you will know which one are covered in the actual directory. And without further notice, I think we can just congratulate all the panelists and applaud them, and then we can have a quick and short break. Thank you very much.
So Xavier is, no, but I mean, they're really leaders of Robert Baruch. If you send me, I'll give you the name. They're very collaborative and they're very
Oui, tu mets le fauteuil noir là et comme ça tu mets la table. C'est l'avantage d'être deuxième. Ça, c'est ton ordi. Voilà, donc ça, je te laisse. On voit la présentation, on prend des notes, soit on change. Ah ben non, sinon, je garde mon ordi. Oui, ça revient au même. Complètement. Dans 15 minutes à peu près. Quand même un peu Insta.
Not just no, I'm not talking just about, I mean, just about the PhD, but all the activities they can do around that, like we're organizing a conference or things like that. But I think they don't necessarily identify that as soft skills and transferable skills that they could use in translating it. Okay.
taking this one. This way I'm not turning my back. Okay, that's fine. Then okay. Then if we're going to respect the order, then you should go there. So that means Catherine, you're in the middle. Yep. I think COVID's going to push us towards this kind of communication because it's much easier to do if you're in a hybrid format. Because I think people, especially if they're online. Philippe, you're here because you're going first. Awesome. So as I said to everybody, your introductions are going to be very short because I don't have my all these wonderful bio sketches you gave me. I religiously compiled them yesterday evening, and I said to put them on my computer, just in case I get
so disappointed.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the interests of our lunch, I suggest you take your seats. And as you're getting yourself sat down, just before I introduce our very exciting group of panelists, maybe just my reactions from this morning, told in a sort of parable format. I've discovered lots of exciting things thanks to Circle U, and they're things I didn't expect to discover. And the one I would say, one of the short stories is, it's a bit like electric plugs or your access to your emails when you're abroad. I think everybody would agree that having the same electric plugs in different European countries makes life easier. And I think everybody would agree that being able to get your SMSs and your emails when you're in another European country is a huge plus. So I think that's, can you hear me? I think emails when you're abroad. Turn off this mic. Is it still? Is there still there? Is that any better? It sounds better to me. It sounds like, okay. So as I was saying, I think everybody would agree that having the same electric plugs across Europe is a help. And that's what I think European University Alliances are about. That's so that we all have the same kind of plug, so that when a student wants to apply to do some kind of international program in Circle U, there's every chance it will also be helpful for trying to apply for something in another alliance, such as yours. And I think whenever you set out to do something new, there's always a leap of faith. There has to be a leap of faith in the unknown. And everything that was said about the difficulties of online access, I absolutely agree with. And I happen to be a member of a beneficiary of some of the very few patented inventions that have led to European self-sustainability. And the figures in the health world are pretty dreadful. Of the thousands of patents that are deposed, very few get licensed and bring in money. And quite a few of those that were successful were all one person. And that person was called into the commission to say, it's obviously worked. You've come to economic self-sustainability. How come 50% of your budget goes on hotel and restaurant fees? So I think you've got the answer. And COVID was tough for us because you can only build confidence when you're together and you spend a little time talking about things that aren't specifically medicine or nanoparticles or whatever your academic specialty is. So without further ado, I'm first going to invite Philippe Delaporte. I've been strict. I said I want an elevator pitch because I want to leave time for discussion. So Philippe is going to kick off. Now Philippe is a professor at Aix-Marseille University, and he's also vice president for research at Aix-Marseille. And it's for all sorts of reasons. We're very grateful that you've come because we didn't give you much notice and you still showed up smiling. You're a university that fused two universities not long before you started the Civis European Alliance. And 3, you're 1 year ahead of us on the Circle U Erasmus side, but at the same phase from the ERIA side. I'd just like you to start amongst all your different different attributes I've mentioned, is that you have a CNRS bronze medal in the fields of nanotechnologies. But I'd like you just to tell us about what did you hear this morning, and what echoes did you hear in the successes you discovered through Civis and the challenges that you faced. Thank you, Philippe.
Thank you. So I am very pleased to be here. And about motivation to be here is I was very glad to share the difficulty. We feel not alone. To share the challenge, the motivation, and the enthusiasm to build such alliance. So I have few comments from the first panel, but before maybe I will say a few words about the Civis Alliance, very brief, I promise. So we are 8 partners. For the first step, we were 8 partners. For the second step, we submitted and we already got the results. So we start the second step, so we feel better. We don't have pressure. We are 11 now, and the SWAFS project is organized with 6 modules. So we select all the modules, which means a common strategy of research and innovation, research infrastructure, improve relation between academic and business, human resource, open science. Yeah, a little bit, okay. And science and society. And in fact, all the modules run together. So we start with a benchmark. Then we have a consensus building to select the actions that we can start all together. And then we are in the phase where we run the study case and like platform and so on. So in reaction with the first panel, I think I'm not going to comment anymore that we have a lack of money, but about research and motivation of research. As we said, there is no funding to fund research, but we have funding to share the best practice, and one of the motivation and to improve the collaboration between the different groups. And for that, I think I agree. We need the best way. They are more open mind. They have more time to see which direction they are going to move. And when one of your PhD or postdoc students move to another lab, he moves part of your lab there. So he start to build connection. And one of the good experience we have is that in the frame of Civis, we build a co-fund project, Civis 3i. And Civis 3i is 16, it's not a lot, but it's 16 postdoc which has to move, which are in university, has to move to other university. And it means they will start to have connection. We already start to have, in the module 2, we build, we share platform. So we have an inventory of the platform, we have a website, when the description of the platform are open, and people can apply to move to use the equipment of this platform. And again, when you move to another lab to use the equipment, you start to discuss with people and you can start collaboration. Because that was one of the discussion, how to motivate collaboration. especially in interdisciplinary, because if it's not interdisciplinary, scientists and researchers are able to find their collaborator. But in interdisciplinary, it's more complex because it's not your field. So either you know exactly what you are looking for collaboration, and in this case, I don't believe that they need help. They are able to find. The other way to start a collaboration is to create the right place and the right condition for people to meet together. Even if they are not ready to work together, if they meet, and if they start to discuss, you don't have to do anything else. If things should happen, it's happen. So that's why I believe that exchange of students, research infrastructure is the right way to initiate the collaboration. If I want to react also, one of the question was how to make not the brand, but the Civis Alliance to be something people knows and to have a feeling of belongings to an alliance. Just an example that all the university has an orchestra. So, and we put them all together during 1 week and they practice together. And after we have the orchestra of the alliance, which gave a performance. And to be honest, that was fantastic because people come to a performance. And first you have the connection between the musician, and then you have all the people knowing, and that was great. So just an example, I'm sure there is a lot of things to do that. Yeah, but I think the main challenge is to take the scientist or the researcher out of their lab. That's the main challenge. We try at the beginning, so we start during the pandemic, so we say, okay, that's a good opportunity. We have all the tools now to have conference online and so on. And we decide to have twice a month a conference from a university. And after 1 year, we stop because nobody attends. There are so many solicitations that nobody attends. So really, we need to find something else. So I'm going to stop here because I have a lot of things, but I can react later.
Thank you very much, Philippe. And of course, you represent the STEM sciences, and we've got the whole gamut here. I think that the message about needing to get people out of their environment is a very clear one. And I know it's not sustainable to send people across Europe for 1 day, but that means they have to stay and they have to have dinner together. And that's when things happen. So that's why we need reasonable budgets for social communication. We heard this morning that Jonathan has trouble remembering whether he's in work package 3 of one half or the other half, and you can't build European confidence on work packages. You have to have something that researchers see as their goals. So we have climate, democracy, and global health. And of course, they're very large subjects, and everybody who wants to can find some way of seeing themselves in these 3. But certainly at many of our universities, including Paris Cité, health is a hugely important part of our activities. And that doesn't just mean an ivory tower of a hospital. It goes straight to the one planet, the one health aspect that was already mentioned earlier on. So I'd now like to hand over to Professor Hervé Bourri, who's head of global health at the Pasteur Institute. And I'd just like to remind everybody who doesn't know that Pasteur has now chosen Université Paris Cité as its partner university. It's very much a win-win partnership, and we certainly intend to make it increasingly that way. But Hervé has already been in close interaction with the global health knowledge hub, we call them in Circle U, on global health, including at our meeting held in the context of the World Health Summit in Berlin last year, close to our friends from Humboldt. And I'd like you to say, how do you spend your life with the Pasteur International Network? We're here to build Europe. How does that fit into an international context? Because of course we can't build Europe as an ivory tower. So maybe you'd like to add any reflections you had yourself from the first discussion, but also how do you see us integrating Europe and the rest of the world, given our past activities, both in research and in teaching. Thank you, Hervé.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you all for this kind of invitation. So as you mentioned, I am a newcomer in Circle U, and it's just because of this agreement that we are very pleased to share some activities and see our future together between Pasteur and Université Paris City. So thank you for giving me the floor. So I think we should be innovative. Innovation is really something that we should not forget, and we should be innovative in different ways. First, it's not only teaching, training of students, but it's to let the student to be able to use their knowledge. So I think this is something which is really important. And so there should be practical sessions, there should be roundtables, discussions, not only to provide knowledge, but to let the students know that they can use their knowledge. And this is a high responsibility that we have during training. Of course, when you think of global health, this training should be interdisciplinary training. So, I mean, as we say in French, it's a bit tarte à la crème. I don't know the translation. Maybe you can help me on that. But it means that there is nothing and everything in it. But still, you cannot think of global health not being interdisciplinary. You need anthropologists, you need social science, you need people that are very good in mathematics for modelization, for epidemiological studies. You need also wet science. And so you need to bring all these disciplines together to work better. And this is really important. We should work a little bit differently and address and discuss more South-South issues. I know we are here among European people, but when you are thinking of global health, you shouldn't think only of Europe. You should think of all the continents. And sometimes we are very French, UK-oriented or European-oriented, and which we should really think in a different way to hear what are the expectations from the South and how the South would like to discuss between South their opportunities, their strengths and their weaknesses, and networking together, Europe South and South South, I think will lead to very interesting discussions and probably conclusions on how we should now perform training and teaching, not only for Europeans, but for the South when we are thinking of global health. So this is a mutual learning, in fact, process. So it's not only Europe that has to learn to the South, or the French has to learn to the French-speaking areas in Africa, or the English to the English-speaking areas in Africa. But just open our minds, open our windows, and really learn from each other in a training process between countries, between universities, between South and South, and between, of course, South and North. And I think we should really think this way if we want to move forward. So there should be regional approaches, and we discussed that in Berlin it was last year, yeah. So we discussed how European universities could help favor the establishment of local training centers in the South. How could they help in the management of training programs for the South, and how European students could participate and contribute and learn and be enriched by this process. So, I mean, this question remains open, but I think we should really still work on that. Of course, the point of view of students, and this has been raised several times, is very important. Students from the North, students from the South, and they should participate. And what we really agreed, all of us, is how could a student know what is going on in all the universities? Or could we look at the website? It's so complex to see what is available. And I think we have to work on that to make the process of the student more easy to look at what he wants to find. And this is easy, in fact, because everything is available, but the information is a little bit probably dispersed. I don't want to be too long. I have two more points. We discussed the involvement of other non-academic institutions, NGOs, etc., which is so important when we are talking of global health. So this is not so easy because these are not academic bodies or these are not universities, but I think when we are talking about global health, at least these institutions, NGOs, and other national institutions should find a way to contribute intellectually, financially. Why not? I mean, because some of them would like to do it. And I think we should take profit from that. My last point is something that was raised in the last Berlin meeting is how to be able globally through Circle U and other institutions to promote some kind of guidelines to provide what we call the label of fair usage and equity of global health training, in order that to say the students, oh, okay, this training has been built in a way that we all support, not only from Europe but from the South, and that will provide the students the best knowledge and the best mutual learning. So, final point is what we raised also is we should not only work, and this has been raised by you before, not only work on the exchange of students, but it's of the exchange of teachers, exchange of researchers, exchange of different partners between the different communities, and we will learn a lot with that. So we should try to build partnership between the universities and help the people to move. I think this is the only way, and this has been already raised. So nothing's very special to raise mutual interest, sharing experiences between us, and move forward to a better construction of Europe.
Thank you very much, Hervé. I think it's you've moved from external partner status to part of belonging to us, or belonging to the same family. Nobody belongs to anybody. But you know, the Pasteur International Network is globally known, and I think we're very lucky to have you working alongside us in Circle U. I could pick up on many of those points, and I think some of them we will come back to. We do have you do have a linguist on your right, and one of the things that came out of the Berlin meeting was that, instigated by Berlin, there was a lot of encouragement to take a post-colonial view of global health. And it quickly became apparent to me that different countries are at different stages of maturity in being able to talk about post-colonial global health. And you know, it seems terribly obvious and very simple that wouldn't it be great if Circle U could contribute to making sure that the global health initiatives between the Francophonic world or Francophonic and Anglophonic Africa could be more integrated. That's maybe an issue that may come back in later discussions. But I think between that and what you mentioned at the end about exchanging teachers and not just students, the world is now open for free, high-level, high-quality education, and anyone who is prepared to be educated in English can get an absolute excess of information online. So on the one hand, we've got this global accessibility to everything, and on the other hand, I think everybody here has said, we can't build confidence and trust, which is the basis for moving forward, if there isn't actual contact. So these are massive issues. And I find it tough enough just at the European level, but apparently to do global health, you have to go further than that. And just before handing over to our next panelist, you said that we need contact with anthropologists, etc. In some universities or in some countries, health has decided they're better on their own. I mean, actually, a medical school's a funny place. It's a bit like It's a bit like, what do you call it, master's programs where you have masters on the alternance in French. It's when you do part of your masters at your university and part with a company. In fact, that's what medical school training, second cycle training is. You're just at the hospital, and it's so integrated. It's such a heavily built up symbiosis that some medical schools have separated from universities. And as it happens, that's what the situation is in Berlin. And to a lesser extent, it's the situation with La Charité and Humboldt and the Freie University in Berlin. So, and it also happens that there's a huge overlap between what our next speaker is going to maybe address, which is the European University Hospital Alliance. Because between the 9 Circle U universities and the, I don't know how many hospital authorities in EUHA, there's significant overlap with at least Paris, Vienna, Berlin, and King's College London. And I think Aarhus has also joined. So on that note, I'd like to hand over to Catherine Tostin, who has who's kindly agreed to join the panel somewhat at the last minute. And Catherine has worked for, she's a linguist, and she trained in applied linguistics and European studies. And for a long time, she's worked with our Paris hospital group in European medical research. And more recently, she's also importantly joined the national, the ministerial health cluster. So at 2 different levels, I'd love to hear what you think about how hospitals and universities can move forward together more quickly than either in opposition or in mutual ignorance. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That's the main question, and a difficult one as well, because you mentioned, so EUA, I'm here to represent EUA, so the European University Hospital Alliance. So as the definition, we are together, university and hospital. And what can I say is that we work in the same way, but within EUHA, we also see some differences concerning, for example, the links between hospital and university. Some countries, the hospital is very linked to the university, and for other countries, such as France, there are links, of course, between university and hospital, but this is more independent. So when we work together, or when we want within EUHA, we say EUHA or EUHA, but EUHA say EUHA. So this is not always easy to develop something, because the links between us are not exactly the same. So we have to find a common way to develop certain projects. I don't know if I'm very clear on that point, but that's why when I refer to the first panel, the first roundtable, it is very important to know the member within our alliance. And you said it takes time to know very well each other, and that is exactly the same for EUHA. We have 5 years of existence, and we are not, at the beginning, we're financed by any European fund. This was the will of our CEO, University Hospital, sorry. They met 5 years ago. I don't remember when and how, but they were together, and they say, yeah, it would be great to do something more, to develop common subject and so on. Why not to create an alliance? And it begins like that. And we have many different themes of discussion concerning the human resources, research, of course, TTO, so tech transfer as well. And I don't remember, but there are many groups of discussion, of working group. And within the research group, there are several ones, and for example, about the data as well. And we've got another subject about the rare diseases as well. I don't know if you're aware about that, but there is a European network of rare diseases. So we developed a group on that, how to react more with the European Commission, for example, because this is a big issue for European Commission as well. So I shouldn't say that there is no there are contradiction between university and hospital. We are going in the same way, but we have to know the difference within us, how to lead this opportunity. I'm quite short.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm pro-rector of the University of Oslo and with extensive experience in modernizing governance.
Yes, I'm sorry, but you can take the woman out of European studies, but you can't take European studies out of the woman. So, so that's my point of departure, because normally my day job would have been to be professor of public administration and especially a student of European integration. So I'll try to interpret what I've heard today in the terminology of studies of European integration. And of course, I think to start with, Circle U and our alliances are what also the EU is, constructing the plane mid-air. And I think that was somehow also the attractiveness of the proposal when the European Commission launched the idea of European university alliances, and was to they were saying, you make an experiment, do what you would like to do, rather than what is prescribed by some political level. So that's and this is was it somebody mentioned that this is a kind of building an ecosystem. And since I'm not a biologist, to me an ecosystem is consists of people or animals eating each other, and that's so I'd like to think of this more in terms of what we see as a political system. Eurobarometer, a wonderful instrument in tapping into this sentiment of the European people. How many the share of European citizens that think it's a good idea to have joint decision making in science and technology? Have a guess what kind of percentage that would be. It's a good idea to have joint decision making in science and technology at the European level. It's about 75% or so. So more than willingness to have a kind of a European integrated science and technology system. When it comes to education systems, it's quite different. It's like 34 or something. You would have to go straight way into the former Eastern countries, Eastern European countries, in order to have a high support for joint decision making for educational systems. So that means that what we are, we as a university alliance with research intensive, comprehensive universities, that we already there have a kind of attention. And I think that's also been somehow the message from some of the panelists have been that there is a kind of the tension between how you react as research organizations and research cooperation, and how we integrate that with our educational delivery. So we have this kind of what's been called legitimate national diversity that we grapple with, and on top of that, the difference between what we've already heard from the instruments that we use in order to support research that's money. You know, that's investment. That's basically the instrument. When it comes to education, it's much more about law. So, and that is how we also we have this well, the exercise of having harmonizing our regulations without going through the national level. And I remember very clearly when we started working on the application for the trial. We had a separate session with the Norwegian minister, and she said, "You can do anything, but don't touch the principle of free higher education." But it turned out it's not easy to do everything when you do have national laws and your national regulations. So that's a kind of and also how we can manage to bypass that in a sense and then deal with it, and it's that's a huge job in itself. So and we've seen it. I mean, the history of the European Union. I think it was I've forgotten his name. The Grand Monnet, Jean Monnet. He said, if I were to start all over again, I would have started with education. And so but it turned out it was very, very difficult to make European level institutions in higher education. EUI kind of is the pale. It's an important institution, but at the same time we didn't manage to create that kind of. So we relied on the networks and networks. We have a lot of how to also to use the established networks into our university alliances. How to create a positive synergy with networks like your network and others, without being completely immersed in the what I call the alphabet soup of the European level politics. You know, all the networks and organizations. So what I draw from the panel discussions and my excellent co-panelists here, I think it's also what we want to accomplish, what our mission is. And I think the list from the European Commission has sort of grown organically, I would say, with adding new expectations as to what University Alliance should do and what they should accomplish. So that's something that we need to think about, how we can incorporate the kind of the growing expectations, great expectations, and my wonderful book on implementation. It's Great Expectations. It's a book about implementing policy, and the subtitle of the book is How Great Expectations in Washington Are Dashed in Oakland. So when you kind of if you take all the expectations, how you can we can sort of without implementing them, because I think these alliances, they are our alliances. That's we want to construct them with our mission in mind, and not as a implementation kind of taking one concept and implementing it locally. So I think that's a challenge, and but I also think that we probably see some kind of differentiated integration solution also. That's some parts of our alliances are more integrated than others. I think we probably have to live with that. But I think there is in addition to the overload of expectations, I think there's a geopolitical challenge. We talked about North-South. I think that's going to be really, really important for us as future university alliances to also to connect to the global South, and how we do that without overloading our mission. It's going to be a challenge, but a positive one. I think careers, really, really, really important. I hope that Alex will talk more about that. But finally, I think I am very happy that democracy became one of the themes that we deal with, because I think it's really a high time that we as a University Alliance deal with the democratic value of universities, and seeing how now increasingly globally people live under more and more authoritarian regimes, and how universities contribute to making sustainable democracies across Europe, but also elsewhere. I think that's something that's really heavy on my mind, and I think it's going to be important also to address this within the context of University Alliance and Circle Europe.
But in the interest of time, because lunch is awaiting us, I'd like to hand over to Alexander Haskell, who's well known to many of you in this community, because he's head of the EUA Council for Doctoral Education, which is the largest European network in this field, which covers, I think, 38 countries and 270 universities. But I understand he's also been a human rights activist and investigative journalist, and has lots of experience in lots of different fields, which is what universities should be about, because we need to be pluridisciplinary. So you get the last word, and then hopefully we'll have, if David will allow us, we'll have a little bit of time for questions from the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. So I hope it's, well, at least my word, even though after what you all said, I'm sure you all have plenty of questions. But actually, it's now my second day in Paris. I was yesterday in another conference, and the topic, or the organizer asked me, was about le doctorat, le laboratoire de la recherche. So the doctorate as a laboratory. And I think the first two speakers talked about laboratory, and we are here in Paris. And one, I think, theory we all aware of is of Bruno Latour about the question of the laboratory. And one point, when I prepared this, really came to my mind is this idea that the laboratory, that we always think about the dichotomy of laboratory between the inside and the outside. And one of his theories was really based on this idea we should go away from the laboratory, because, of course, the laboratory is very strongly involved or influence what happens outside and in the society. But at the same time, I think if I go to you and say, oh, I would like to visit all the laboratory of Institute Pasteur, you may tell me, well, maybe not. So you need a little bit, on one hand, think about the laboratory as a place of exchange with society, but also as a space where things happened which also need some kind of layers of, I wouldn't say protections, but having kind of organizational framework which makes it really working well. So why am I saying this? When we talked about an UACD, so indeed we are like a network of now more than 270 universities. We develop a new vision paper. So what is actually now the doctorate, or more broadly developing the next generation of researchers? And we developed actually 10 points we felt are the most important. And the first three aspects we had were related to some big transition, which is the greening, the sustainability. The second was the question of digitalization. And all this together also the discussion about the exchange of society. And one point here was, first of all, to say the foundation of what we are doing now, when I talk about early stage researcher, is research. And we should understand what it means, what is the essence of doing research, what is the necessity to maintain curiosity, to maintain openness, and have the right frameworks which allow to exchange, but at the same time also to understand what are the main challenges we are dealing with. And we just had our workshop, and Nasse was also there last week, where we discussed the topic of sustainability in doctoral education. And one very interesting topic is of course the question of mobility, of exchange, which has also been raised. And when I was listening to all the conversation, it's obvious nobody, I don't think anybody in this room found the perfect solution. On one hand, we have a challenge with burning of carbons, flying all the time, everywhere is an issue, but at the same time, we all have had this experience also in COVID. We need to maintain this personal contact. So what we are in a situation now, and now we are in this plane allegory. We are already in this plane. We need to make this plane greener, but we know being in a plane is something useful, and it needs to get into a certain good place. So I think all this question of alliance, of collaboration, has to do with this, that we're in a situation now in higher education where we are dealing with this greening, with the challenge of digitalization. So how do we include AI in the work we are doing? And everybody talks now about ChatGPT, and I actually did last week, because we had this, I asked, so what is the best strategy for greening of universities? The answer was extremely banal, but it was some strategy you are going. So we need to go beyond that. And for that we need the younger generation of researchers, and we had already discussed this morning. And so another point is we really need to listen to this next generation, and not only listen in a way, have somebody invited, but also to understand there is also diversity of perspectives in this next generation of researchers. And we need to understand that this connection between the need of having reliable career structure, having a certain way of predicting also the future, and at the same time to be adapted to an extremely changing world where nobody really knows what's going on, is a situation we are in. And therefore, I think understanding next early stage researchers as actually experts for the unknown and giving them the real support to confront this is really important. And how do you do this? And here you do this with exchanges. And of course, the question of exchanging, collaborating is not something which just came up in the last 5 years. We have in Europe already a lot of intents to organize these collaborations. The Doctor Européen started in 1991 as one initiative. We see also in the networks here what was presented, a lot of new ideas of developing. So when we take this plane issue, we don't still know what is the best plane, and probably there is not just one model of planes we need to deal with, but there are different ways of thinking and reflecting about how the best way of collaboration are. And there will be also not only one, because we talked about the vision of North and South, and we talked also about different frameworks. So staying with this allegory about the plane, well, you cannot plane a 330 when you know the airport you're going has just the capacity for an Airbus 330. So you need, on one hand, to be flexible, to deal with what's going on, but you also need to be aware about the different frameworks there are. We just had a working group on co-tutels in CD, and something we really found out here is often everything works very well, but at the end you have the question about the thesis defense, and then you see there are two very different legal frameworks, and how do you bring them together? So you need to find, and with this I won't end, to find a good way of having this flexibility, but also seeing the importance of exchanging about to better understand where are you coming from, what are actually the frameworks you're in, what are your interests, what are also your economical situations. And by having this long-term approach, the short-term flexibility, and especially understanding where people come from, I think you can build really good collaborations.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Now we're going to have to, we've got a reasonably hard stop because we've got Marta Frucco from the Commission who's online waiting for us. But I would like to take time for one or two short questions from the audience, please. Thank you. The younger generation, once again. Just no, you need to stand up and introduce yourself and then shout or make the microphone.
Okay, so hello to you all. My name is Noma Assad, and I'm.
Need to turn it on.
It's not working. like that. You hear me? Okay. So my name is Noma Asad. I'm I'm a PhD student in my second year, and I work in a unit of medical research, translational research. So I liked very much this session because I can relate, because it's lots of you work in this field, the scientific / medical. Especially the idea of interdisciplinary, because like lots of the time we are so much digged into the project that we forget the general idea or the connection to the reality or to other disciplines. So this is a very important idea. My question for the Circle U, for your how do you say it, participating in this collaboration, because for example in medical research, collaboration has lots of details, lots of logistics, lots of ethics, I don't know, sample shipments, lots of details in this collaboration. So for the Circle U, your participation in this collaboration, at which extent it's practical, it's more general, more exhaustive? How do you accompany this collaboration? At which extent?
So I hear that the question is, you're interested, how do you get involved? And your PhD is on a very specific subject. And that's a very good question. Because we've heard the two extremes. It's difficulty in irrigating at home, because it's all very well to come to these great meetings and everybody comes out really enthusiastic and Europe is going to happen tomorrow. And then you go back to the grim reality of, I have to get my PhD, my boss won't let me take time off to go and do blah, 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 blah in a policy meeting. Does somebody have the short, sharp answer to that very good question? Because I'd be tempted to say, if we can think about something on, let's say, intensive care and COVID, and if we had a sort of forum whereby students from our partner universities could talk about intensive care and COVID in the global sphere, then you'd like to go and you'd apply. And then we come back to the money issue.
Thank you. This is a very good question. I think we have to really open the curricula and not focus it too much, as it is probably the case today. And for sure, you need to learn what will be your specialty, but you need to have a broader view or where it fits and why you are doing that, in fact, and where it fits in the landscape. So I may see some of the solutions. So we are working in connection, for example, with Paris Cité on the curricula on emerging threats and infectious diseases, where in fact there will be some parts of the curricula dedicated to what we can non-usual teaching parts, like what is the part of social science in the understanding of any mechanism, what is the part of any kind of things that will help you to really have a broader view of where you will fit with your specialty in the global landscape. So, I mean, this is not very easy, because we have to fit with the law and the regulation of the curricula. But I think this is the way to go. We have to really to think of it.
Thank you, Hervé. And just before I hand over to Antoine, we could think about things like, you have to do X hours for your école doctorale. You could get joining a Circle U activity as counting for your hours. Those are practical suggestions. Antoine, Kazi.
So my short answer to this would be that you need to have things at different scales, and they are all important. So we need to have very large things like institutional collaborations at a high level, and this does a certain type of thing. For instance, science diplomacy is very much a word of the day or a phrase of the day. And to do this, to do science diplomacy and make some decisions or take some orientations, you need collaboration at a very large scale level, macro level. You also need some gems like your PhD working in relation with another PhD student at another Circle U university. You come together with a fantastic solution for the problem you are working on, and this contributes to the entire collaborative ecosystem. And I think we cannot, that not one is better than the other. All are important. And what we need to do is to find the good mechanisms to let the large topic trickle down to the smaller size, and the smaller projects, I don't know how to say that, radiate up to the large collaboration and contribute to the entire ecosystem. I don't know. This is typically an issue for anyone doing international relations, right? It goes in all directions at the same time, at all scales, different speeds, and you need to herd cats and put that together in a form or shape that makes sense.
Okay, am I allowed in one last question? No, I think David's saying no. So since it's you, Anna, but very short.
Very short. Do you think that through an alliance you have a stronger voice to influence policymakers at the national level? And thank you, Asa, for bringing this idea of the goal behind collaboration. It's not only implementing projects. It's something that interests you. It's a priority in this research collaboration, because speaking about health, global health, public system is struggling. Maybe it would be good to think that universities who have the knowledge can make some recommendations to our politicians.
Okay, Anna, this question is for you, Catherine.
The answer is yes, of course, definitely. Because University Hospital is quite specific towards university alone. So the voice of the hospital is very important, and we have to develop that on the European level and to be more present. So yeah, definitely. And if I may answer to your question or your remarks, we are going to develop doctoral networks at our level. It's not easy because it's not yet created, but we are trying to do that. So to associate more the PhD student and so on. So, but yeah, definitely the European level is very important.
Thank you very much. And I'd just like to thank all of our panelists. You've all done a great job. We could carry on discussing for much longer. But we're now going to hand over to Marta Trucco-Calvet, who's our project advisor at the European Research Executive Agency, who's joining us online. Marta, can you hear us?
Here or even see me. I don't know what are the technical arrangements.
We can hear you, Marta. It's fine. Off you go.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for this kind invitation, and I would like to sincerely apologize for not being there with you today. That for us is from Brussels is a missed opportunity. To be able to meet you all, to see not only the partners and the coordinators, but also the people behind the project. But today I could not happen, but I hope I will be able to do it in another occasion. So basically, today I've been asked to share with you what are from our side, from the Research Executive Agency side, what are some of the lessons or some of the challenges that we have been already maybe observing in the implementation of the European University Alliances projects. Now, as you know, these projects were launched to strengthen the strategic partnerships across the EU among different higher education institutions, and the idea was to support the emergence of these European universities by 2024, with the support of the two programs of Erasmus Plus and Horizon Europe. And the idea was to bring in together the European research area closer to the European higher education area. Now, I would say that from the research and innovation side, we are starting now to observe and to have a more feedback from the universities, as we are having the what we called the reviews, which is our formal let's say, intermediate point where we sit with the alliances and we hear about how they have been implementing, what have been the challenges, what have been the successes. So I would say that what we have until now are preliminary, let's say, findings, and that I am happy to share with you these preliminary findings. But again, what I'm saying is that the project, as yours, it's ongoing, and we are still a bit cautious to draw any conclusions from these. So as you know, we have in the pilot one, we have 17 projects running on the Horizon Europe. And basically what we want we are going to produce is a report where we will bring together a consolidated analysis of the intermediate progress of the 17 projects. And we want to there explain like projects like yours, what have been the different variety of models for modernization and transformation of the research and innovation strategies and systems in the different universities. So maybe if I can share with you some of these preliminary findings. The first idea is that what we have observed is that, of course, the selection of the and prioritization of the transformation models have varied across the alliances, leading to differences in terms of scope and implementation. As you know, the alliances could choose between different institutional transformation models, from developing common organized agendas, sharing resources and infrastructures, strengthening human capital, mainstreaming open science, etc. So what we have observed is that there has been a variety of choices, and with different prioritization, but we also see that the breadth and the depth on how these are being addressed varies quite substantially between the alliances. This is quite normal. We are at the implementation phase, and we also see this as part of the flexibility and the natural selection by the different alliances in terms of where they wanted to focus their efforts. Now, we also have seen during this first period that the alliances have mainly a focus on building on previous Erasmus Plus Alliance activities and setting up the project, setting up, mapping the alliances activities, and also adjusting to COVID. So what we see is that the partners somehow, although they had already built close relationships under the Erasmus Plus, somehow we have seen that the partners, in any case, they had to somehow reintroduce themselves to one another. And then many of the activities in the first reporting period were primarily concerned with this data collection, mapping exercises, benchmarkings, analysis of the results of these exercises. So for us, it's still too early to be able to say whether the deliverables, whether the activities that have been implemented are already bringing some impact. That we will only be able to say it, I mean, in a much later stage. So we are still in this preliminary stage, but we see that they are advancing well in terms of these necessarily preliminary activities on which basis then the task will be built. We overall, we have seen that the progress is satisfactory. The vast of bulk of activities planned have been successfully implementing. By now, we have concluded the reviews of the 17 first pilot universities. So that's quite good on our side. But we also see that we need somehow renewed efforts by the university alliances and also national and regional authorities to resolve some sort of difficulties which somehow arise in the pursuit of this transnational cooperation. And what I mean by this is that those challenges that have been long been associated with transnational cooperation, such as language barriers, compatible information systems, continue to hamper the effective and proactive engagement of some partners. But one challenge in particular was this that regularly cited was some sort of differences in terms of the legal environment in which the universities are performing. And that is something, of course, that go beyond the universities, but it's something that it is regularly cited by the universities. There we see also there are different cultural environments, political environments, somehow in which the alliances operate. But that's also part of the diversity in which this takes place. So we have also seen on our side that of course the alliances have been somehow at a certain point even struggling with the funding roadmap coming from Erasmus Plus, and then the funding roadmap coming from Horizon Europe. And we see that these two roadmaps somehow sometimes bring some additional layer of difficulties by the alliances to manage. We are aware of that. We are different programs, but well, the idea is at the very end that through these two funding instruments, the two pillars of education and research and innovation can be brought together in this modernization of the universities. And another observation that we have so far is that we see that for future consideration should be that it's very important to involve more research managers and leaders at the alliance institutions. So when we have discussions, the presence of those that have a full overview of institution research capacities and who have also the authority to make a resource, even resource allocation, that it's key in terms of being able to then move on with the projects and to take the necessary decisions when is needed. So the composition of the local implementation teams, it is very important, and we see that of course they vary depending on which alliances and in which institutions, but it is key in order to ensure a future impact. So that's a bit the observations that I wanted to share with you. We are currently now on the basis of the policy briefs that you have also provided, on the basis of the reviews that we had. As I was mentioning, we are going to produce this report that I hope we will be able to publish by February. This is a report where, together with the help of some external experts, we go through the different not only challenges and not only the progress made, but also some initial good practices that are already emerging from these alliances. And the idea is that we want to foster this mutual learning. We know that several alliances are in fact running with the similar challenges, developing similar tasks and tools, and we want to bring these alliances closer so that so there's no need to sometimes to reinvent the wheel, and there can be more cross fertilization between alliances. That's a bit on my side. I'm very happy, of course, with Circle U achievements so far, and we hope that we can engage with you also on a more multilateral level with other universities once this report is out, so that we can build a discussion around the progress of all universities, and particularly on potential good practices that are already emerging in this.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marta. Are there questions for Marta from the floor or from the panelists? I've heard that, not surprisingly, we're taking slightly different approaches, but that's nice because Europe is let's unite in our diversity, and the more we see different practices, because I think we're all trying to get to the same aim. We're Darwinian selected for wanting to make European universities work. We're not necessarily totally representative, but we are Darwinian selected. I was about to say there's no prizes in getting here first. And we're all aware that our different countries have different university funding mechanisms, with some slightly more different than others. Is it true that we're not in competition, or is there going to be competition for students going to, in 10 years' time, will a PhD student choose what's on offer locally, or will they look at the whole European market? And will they choose based on what they see online? Will there be linguistic links? So I would just maybe ask you that question. Do you think the university alliances are heading towards a sort of common European way of working? Or are we heading towards a competitive higher education market?
Yes, well, I think that one thing is not exclusive from the other. I think the competition it's positive, but it should be a constructive competition, and I think that bringing in these different alliances, helping the alliances to collaborate, but at the same time to compete, can only help us in raising the excellence level at the EU. And I think that the students can only benefit from that if they can see that an option to follow their studies, not only those universities in the local town, but those universities placed wherever in Europe you are, depending on which one offers the best offer for them. So that is the idea of the modernization of the universities, to make them more fit for the needs of the 21st century. And we hope that with the university alliances, we will be able to open these new doors of collaboration, new doors as well for competition. But at the same time, as we were mentioning, this transformation of the European universities are needed in order to be able to foster the level of excellence of our research and innovation systems, and also of our education area. So I think that's the way, of course, that we see it.
Excellent. I think that's a very, very nice closing statement for what's been a long and very rich week. And I think it comes to me to make the closing remarks. I would just like to say that our students today are tomorrow's adults and deciders. And I think it's clear to everybody that if Europe is to remain a globally competitive structure, it needs to work at the European level. I sincerely hope that those of you who do represent the student body that are tomorrow's leaders, that increasingly you will be sat here in the room with us, because we learn progressively how to inject Circle U or Civis or whatever our alliance is into our day-to-day university existence. And I'm sure all the activities this week have moved us in that direction. One very concrete piece of information we heard on Monday's debate from Iliana Cisurel, who's a member of the European Parliament, is that they're apparently planning Erasmus for teachers. So I think that's a sort of direct answer to what you said earlier on, Asa, about we are now heading towards opening up education at very early levels. So it's a bit like, is it Anna from Berlin that said that that this week has shown that we've achieved a miracle? And I think on that positive note, I wish you bon appétit. Thank you for coming. Thank you to all our speakers. And it's hard to create Europe. It's hard to create a harmonious Europe. People fought after in 1945 to prevent wars. there is a tendency towards nationalism. Everything we can do here to keep open communication between different views, the importance of maintaining democracy along a model that is important to us. And I think that's why we're all here. And thank you very much for contributing. And bon appétit.